Hi, my name is Asad Ali Mirza, and this is Narrative Learning. Today I'm going to talk about different serializers in C# and how we can use them. And I'm also going to discuss them a bit, but mostly we'll dive in to demo to get more understanding. So today we will be discussing these serializers in a bit more detail, and we'll be seeing some introduction, and then we're going to dive into code to get more understanding. So without further ado, let's start. According to Microsoft, it serializes and deserializes an object or an entire graph of connected objects in binary format. A binary serializer is used when you want to communicate object along with two different parts of the system and having the same state. It is important to use this technique when the systems share the same type, and if they're not sharing the same type, then there is other ways of serializing it. But it's better to use this one if they are sharing the same type. They are smaller in size and they're unreadable, and most part of them does not support data contract, but data contract is supported in cases of other serializers. So let's see it in action. Okay, so let's start the demo. So I'm going to create a new class here, and this is my main class. I'm going to call it binary format turtles example. We'll have a public method which we can call. A public method, we're going to write some object, a list of object to the file. So let's have a list of string here. We're gonna have a few items in that. So let me add the first one. Call it object 1. And we duplicate it and call it object 2 and object 3. So we're gonna write that list to using the binary formatter in a file. And to do that, we need a file stream. So we're gonna define the file stream. Let's see what the parameters are. So the first one is the name of the file. Just gonna call it data file.dat, and the parameter is to create if it's missing. Then we're gonna use the binary formatter. I'm gonna initiate a new object. And we're gonna serialize. So we'll pass in the file stream and the list of objects in that. Because it could throw an exception, let's move it to a try block. Oh, what am I doing here? It's better. And we're gonna introduce a catch. So let's write exception. And we can write some message here. And finally, we have to close our stream. And then after that, we just need to write that we're done serializing. So let's say serialization done. And we will write that so that we can continue our deserialization operation after that. And now we need to call our class in the main method. Should be binary formatter example. Let's do it. And we're going to run it. some other screen. So here it is. So it says serialization done, press enter to continue. So if you see here in the debug folder, because I didn't choose any paths, it just picked up the debug folder, and there you can see that the file was created, and that's the content of the binary file, which are unreadable. So what we're going to do now is gonna press enter, and yep, and it's closed now, and now we're going to continue deserializing it. So let's do that in the same method. Just gonna write it here. So to do that, we're going to use the same file stream. I'm going to reinitialize it. I'm going to write the name of the file, so it's the same current path, and the mode of the file should be open. So you're going to have the same block here, try catch, and now we need to retrieve the list. So we're going to initialize the list, and you see here we need to call the formatter.deserialize, and we pass in the stream. We return that to the list, but we need to define the type here. So what we're going to do is we're going to cast it to a list of string. And once that is done, we need to print it. So I'm going to use the for each. I'm going to use this lambda to print all the elements. And once they're done, I'm going to close the catch block here. Just going to write something happened. Then finally, we're going to close our stream again. So let's run it. So here, going to press enter, deserialize it. Gonna press enter. Oh, that was super quick. Let's try that one more time. Oh, the message just disappeared, so we need to wait for the screen. We're gonna add a wait there in the screen so that we can read it. So pressing enter, and now you can see there that it retrieves those objects, and you can see it there. So that was more or less it. So the next one is data contract JSON serializer. According to Microsoft, it serializes the object to JSON and deserializes the serialized JSON back to the object. So to understand it more, we need to go into the demo and see it in a bit more detail. So let's start with the demo. So first off, we're going to create an object that we're going to persist using the serializer. I'm going to call it person. It's going to have two properties, the first name, and the last name. And we need NuGet packages, so you can see here those DLLs are added via the NuGet packages, the references. So we're going to create a helper or an example class that's going to call the data contract JSON serializer. I'm going to call it data contract JSON example. I'm going to create the same type of public method. Let's do it. Instantiate a person object. I'm going to assign the first name, the last name. We're going to need a new writer that will be of type file stream. Then we're going to give a path. I'm going to give a different file name now. And then we need to have the create as file mode. Then we're going to create an instance of an object of data contract JSON serializer. And in that, we need to pass in the type of the object that we want to serialize. So pass in type of person. And now we're going to write our object to the writer and the object. So if you see here, the person is written to the writer stream. That'll be a file. And then here we're just going to say stopper message that the serialization is done and press any key to continue. And we also need to add the console.readline. So now we need to create an object of this class. And then we need to call the so let's do it method. So let's run it. If you see here, it says press any key to continue, and let's see the Explorer to see if the file is there or not. So there's the txt file, and if I double click it, you see the JSON is written here. And now what we want to do is we're going to continue our pattern of deserializing it. So when the user hit enter, it's going to deserialize the object. So for that, we need a reader. There'll be again a file stream of the same file that we just wrote our JSON to. And we need a mod. So the mod is open. Then we're going to create an object type person read. And now we need to cast it to a person. So that's the person that we read from the file. We see here serialized.read object, and we pass in the reader in it. And now we just need to print what we read. So first press any key to continue. And now we're just going to print that. Just $sign here. Parentheses, and here is going to be person read dot first name and then person read dot last name. So now when we're going to run it, it's going to serialize our object first, save it to the file, and then when we hit enter, it's going to deserialize it, read it from the file, and then print it. So we're going to hit enter. Oh, we've got an exception here. Oh, because we didn't actually close the stream, so we're going to close it. The file was still open in another stream, so let's try it again. So you see now, the first name is Assad and the last name prints out. That's printed. So that's more or less of the code. So that's pretty simple. So I hope you understand that. And now we're going to proceed to the next serializer. The data contract serializer is commonly used to serialize and deserialize an object to an XML. The very common use of data contract serializer is Windows communication framework, where the data is sent using the deserializer. You can serialize any type of object to an XML and then deserialize it back to that object. Most importantly, the data contract serializer accumulate the future versions compatibility of the object. So it provides an opportunity of the future versions of the object, which can be achieved by implementing the I extensible data object. But that's more of the detail, and we're not going to touch that much. So what we're going to do is we're going to try out the basic serializing and deserializing using the data contract serializer. So let's start with the demo. So I've already written all the code there, so that will save us some time. So if you see here, first we're gonna give you a quick introduction about the code, and then later on we're gonna go through the code and see it in much more detail. So if you see here, we have the let's do method with all our logic, and then we have the person object that we're gonna read and write using serializing and deserializing. And we have our main class instantiated in the main that we will use to call the let's do it method. So that's more or less our structure. It's gonna be almost same. So let's start it. And if you see here, the serialization is done. Press enter to deserialize. We're gonna do that. And if you see the file here, that's the serialization part. So you see there's like a whole XML here with all the namespace and everything, and you see the first name and the last name. And that would be the file where it's written. So the individual, the namespace is there. And you see the XML namespace. And then I'm gonna stop it here. Then see here the data members and those things. So what I'm gonna do with the data member now, I will explain this data contract in a bit, but before that I want to try out something. So now the default value if you see here is false. That means that I'm gonna run it again, and now I'm gonna show you the file. So I'm gonna open it now. So now there is no value in the last name. So you see here now the empty tag is not there anymore. So that's how you control the object with the default value that is null. And that's more or less it. So let's go through the code. If you see that there is the data contract on the object, a data contract is a formal agreement between a service and a client that abstractly describes the data to be exchanged. That is to communicate the client and the service do not have to share the same type, only the same contracts. A data contract precisely defines for each parameter or the return type what data is serialized, turned into XML, or to be exchanged. And that's the definition given by the Microsoft. So basically, a data contract is basically a contract of an object between two different entities. And here we have that the data contract is a person and the individual is the name. Within that data contract, first name is the data member, and the last name is another data member, but the default value, if there is no default value given, then we don't need it. So that we saw when we ran the code, we saw in the file that there was no last name added to the XML file that we generated. So that was more or less it. So let's move to the next serializer. The next is the net data contract serializer. The net data contract serializer differs from the data contract serializer in one very important way. The net data contract serializer includes the CLR type information of the serialized XML, whereas the data contract serializer does not. Therefore, the net data contract serializer can be used only if both the serializing and the deserializing and share the same CLR type. And that's the official definition. So let's try to understand it using the code. Okay, so I already have the code here as well, and it's in the same format with an example serializer class, an object, person object, and the main class. So the main class now has a data contract and the name is customer, but I also mentioned the namespace up there. It also has this data member and stuff. So let's start it. And when I started it, so I got the same message, serialization done, press enter to deserialize. And I did that, and now it deserialized it. So basically serialized, put the data in the file and then deserialize it. So let's see the file now. If you check the file now, let's open it in Internet Explorer. If you see here, all the CLR information is given here. So the customer XML and everything. So that is basically what differentiates between the net data contract serializer. And if we go through the code here, it's almost the same. We instantiated the object, we needed a file stream that links us with the physical file, and then we needed a writer, the XML dictionary writer, and then we created a text writer on the file stream that we had, and then we instantiated the net data contract serializer object, and then we write our object P into the writer, the XML writer, um, and we use the serializer object, and then we close the stream, and we also close the file stream, and then after that we did exactly the same but with the reader. So we had the XML dictionary reader, we did that, we passed in the file stream, and we also have to pass in the XML dictionary reader codas. Then we instantiated the serializer again, and then this time we read the object from the reader and casted it to the person object, and we printed it there. So that was the code example here. So our last serializer is the XML serializer, and basically it's more or less simple. Just serializes the object to an XML and deserializes it back to the object. It controls the encoding of the XML, and it does not support the data contract. So let's see the demo. So I already have got the code here with the same let's do it method and the main that we're calling it. So what we're doing here is we have the person object, and then we have the serializer, and then after that we have the writer. So let's start it. So I've started it here, we've got the same message. I'm gonna hit enter and I see Assad and Mirza back here. So let's see the file where it has written our XML. So here we are printing it. And let's open the file. And if you see here, we have the XML notation up there, and then the person object with the first and the last name there. And that was our old XML from the net serializer, and this is from the XML serializer. So I'm going to close that now, closing this one as well. And now let's go through the code. And if you see in the code, we still have the same object. We instantiated the XML serializer, and then after that we had a writer, the file stream writer, which is giving us connection to the file. And then it was really easy. We just used the serializer, serialize our object P to the file stream, and that's it. And then we closed it. And while reading it back, we just deserialized it from the reader and picked up the object, casted it to our object, and then printed it with the first and the last name. So the XML serializer is pretty straightforward and very simple. So that's more or less it. I hope you understand that one. I hope I didn't create more confusions. I tried to be as simple as possible. Of course, there are many differences at a very deep level, but I just touched the very higher ground. With that said, if you have any questions or comments, please email me at asad.mirza@live.com. This is Narrative Learning, and I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day. Bye.